Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Miami, reunited with the Shelby GT500. Yes, I am back here in the USA for the next couple of weeks, heading of course over to the West Coast, a long way from here, but to Monterey Car Week, Quail, Pebble Beach and the usual activities. I cannot wait to be back over there, but firstly, how cool is it to be reunited after 4 months with the Shelby Mustang, the GT500 that I had so much fun with earlier this year after collecting it here in Miami. In fact, it was delivered to Iconic Motors, doing the PPF and the stripes with Suntech, then heading over across the country and having driven in total over 7,000 miles in this awesome beast. While we're here, I want to let you know a little bit more about the plans ahead and get back behind the wheel of this thing to take it for another drive to remember what it's all about. What can I say? How cool does this car look? The grabber lime with the black stripes, the red pinstripe details. It felt very, very strange when I parked it up a couple of months ago, having used it for the first few months of my ownership, but then saying farewell, not really knowing what the plan was going to be ahead. With these ever-changing travel restrictions and rules, it's impossible to really know. And eventually, this car will come over to the UK. That is the plan, and I'll let you know a little bit more about that today. At the moment, of course, here on a Florida plate, out in the USA, and I'm not gonna lie, by the way, it is incredibly humid here in Miami. At this time of year in the summer, they are basically frequently getting thunderstorms that appear out of nowhere. It pours down and it dries up minutes later. It's over 30 degrees, but the humidity is very, very real, especially when you've come from the UK and you've got out here. Anyway, this thing with its track pack, with the carbon fiber wing, with the carbon fiber wheels, and I was actually thinking a little bit more about these. When I get this car over to the UK, with our potholes, tighter roads, curbs everywhere, I don't want to risk damaging these, and I'm not entirely sure as well about the longevity of carbon wheels, especially with the amount of miles that I've done. So I think those are possibly going to have to come off the car and be replaced by something else in Europe. I think they cost, get this, $7,500 a wheel if you need to replace one. $30,000 for the wheels on a Mustang. I still think it's mental that a not particularly light car goes for the very, very light wheels. This is the only car I own, in fact, that has carbon fiber wheels, full stop, but they do look the part, and they do, of course, match with everything else. And of course, we've also got the rear seat delete, unlike my C63 Black Series back at home, which is not the full track package that Mercedes offered. Now, I don't really remember how you do this. Do you just have the car locked and then press this button? Yes, you do. And it sounds awesome. I missed that grumble. Anyway, let me get in here into some air conditioning for the moment. Actually, one thing very quickly, we have reintroduced to the Cheers by Shmeemobile shop the GT500 design that carries through the design and color scheme of this car. So you can check those out. Link is down below. Cheers by Shmeemobile. We've added it back to coincide with the return of the car, to be back out here in Florida, to be back with this car. Right, aircon needed. Oh, that's blowing very strongly. Oh, it stopped on me. Just another excuse for another startup. Come on, aircon, I need this. Okay, it's only 29 degrees. I told it it's a lie, but it's the humidity that just... Oh, that's better. The humidity is intense, really intense, especially for a Brit who's been in the very miserable, rainy, wet summer that we've been having so far. Anyway, back in this car, 7,355 miles. I've got a couple of errands that I need to run, places I need to go at the moment. So I'm basically going to go for a little drive around, pick up some stuff. Obviously, having not been here for quite so long, to be honest, I did think I would have been back sooner. It just hasn't been possible with the travel, but thankfully it was possible to come in now. So here we are, back in this. Let's go for a drive. Here we are then, Miami in the GT500. What a day, back at the wheel of this car, and you just have that murmur of the V8 with the supercharger in the background. Now if I pop it up into my mode, which I had configured, and press M for manual as well, this car is silly. I'd forgotten how good that this actually sounds, and that's not the loudest setting. It can go up into track exhaust and it gets even louder than that. Now with it earlier this year, I did pretty much the entire lifetime of a car's experience in 7,500 miles. Drag races at Hennessy, VMAX across the dry lake bed with Stradman in Utah, Button Willow on track in California, driving it coast to coast, doing so many miles with it, having so much fun with it. Actually, I'm going to pop it up into track just to remind myself how ludicrous it gets. Mad, absolute mad machine. And you can't buy anything like this in Europe. This is old school in some ways, the massive engine, for example, bolted on supercharger on the top, but then modern with the dual clutch gearbox, which shifts, as I described it before, like a PDK. It just snaps between the gears remarkably quickly, and yet it's quite a comfortable ride. I mean, we're in track now, so the ride stiffens up a little bit. If you go back into, let's say, sport mode, things soften slightly, and it's actually a really nice car to just drive again. It's a really nice car to just be chilling in, to just enjoy, to cruise, and to drive so many miles with, which is, well, what I bought it for, American muscle car for the American road trip, right? With the intention that one day, as I teased yesterday, obviously, that this will come back home and join the Fast Ford collection, that it will join my Ford GT and Heritage Edition Focus RS in the collection back at home in the UK. And how cool will that be? I mean, you sit in it and just look at the bonnet, look at the hood, as I should say, out here in front of you, the way it bulges, the way it has those vents for cooling, which we took off for the track day that we did back in California. I love this. It's crazy, but it's been so weird having a car here in Florida for 4 months while I've not been here. And I did have a little taster of that with the Ford GT, because if you remember, I left it in California when I'd come back to Europe twice on 2 occasions. Actually, once I left it in Las Vegas. Once was in California with Speedy Jeff at the Man Cave, and once was when I was in Las Vegas before I went back out for the launch event of this, for the first drive opportunity in the Shelby GT500, as it happens. But to know that you have a car, fairly expensive asset, on the other side of the world is a little bit trippy, a little bit of a strange feeling, we can say, to say the least. But basically, it's been in the safe hands of a friend of mine who's started it up, run it a couple of times here and there, made sure everything is well with it, and came to pick me up from the airport with it last night when I arrived straight in here at Miami, which was, again, a very strange thing, with it echoing around the almost underground pickup area at Miami International Airport. But as I said, this is the start of the trip, and my first errand, and where I'm going right now actually, is to go and buy a few things that I might need while I'm out here that I wasn't able to bring with me because everything happened super last minute, and then obviously pull it back over with a very, very busy schedule ahead with everything that's going on. Anyway, I want noisy mode because, oh no, I've got all the way around. This is one thing that's slightly annoying. You've got so many different settings. I can't wait to have that in Europe. I've run my first errand now, but there's one thing I had slightly forgotten about this car, which is how laughably bad it is when it comes to fuel economy. I'm at about half a tank already in 67.7 miles since I filled it up. That's atrocious. The only thing that makes it slightly okay is that fuel prices here are so cheap compared to Europe. Obviously, it's not so good, but that is the downside of a gigantic 760 horsepower engine and a heavy right foot and a desire for keeping the gear low. It's not the most efficient thing, and it reminds me of how many times we ran this really low on the cross-country tour. I think there were at least 2, if not 3 occasions when we basically had it down to 0 to empty, and that was more than a little bit concerning, because when you're in the middle of nowhere, you have these long stretches driving cross country where there's just nothing. There's nothing for miles and miles and miles and miles, and the next gas station might be 50 miles away, and you're having a moderate panic as to whether it would be better to turn around and go back to one that's behind you as opposed to continuing on towards the next one. But we made it. It never ran out, and it seems to be a bit of a trait, because my Ford GT is, as you probably know from the videos, also very, very, very bad for fuel economy relative to other 650 or so horsepower supercars. And even the Heritage Focus RS, or any Focus RS, is not very good compared to other cars in their segment. And And that's part of why it's so bad. But it's so fun to do that in this car. And the shifts, you can tell the gearbox is heavily inspired by the Porsche PDK system. Just the way that it shifts, the way that it feels, the way that if you hold both pedals, you can rev it up just like that. Again, just like you can in a PDK gearbox. And to be fair, they just did a really good job with it. Really, really nice job with this. I'm not sure how much of the sound you hear through the microphone, but for me driving the car, it's just a bit silly. And I cannot wait for the Rev Wars. This versus GT8 versus Rentec SLS versus secondary DCAT C Black Series. That will sound mental. I think that's something we need to do in the future when this is over. Anyway, I'm going to go head to one of my favourite spots around here. Saying that, I am literally driving towards some very dark grey clouds, and it is forecast a thunderstorm shortly. Because I want to tell you a little bit more about what this trip is entailing, what else is going to be happening, where I'm going to be going, what the plans are at the moment, and they're all very, very open to change because so much is changing very last minute. And we'll have to see a little bit how it goes, but those pops on the shift are just fantastico. I love it. Absolutely love it. Little tunnel. Silly. But silly is fun. Sometimes that's what you need. Anyway, cruising now. Let's pop it back into normal mode. Take it easy, nice and there are too many modes and it takes way too long to cycle between them because you can't press the other way, you have to go through it like that. And back into drive. And now it's surprisingly comfortable. I guess because American car, nice comfy seats, fairly soft ride. The ride varies dramatically depending which mode you have it in, particularly if you go into drag strip mode, so it gets very soft so it can put all the weight down onto the rear axle, considering the engine is up front and we've got no back seats. Whereas if you go into track, it gets super, super firm. So there's a huge, huge breadth of capability in terms of the ride quality. It's just a nice car to drive. It's a really surprising car. It's very easy with a European mentality to say that there's no way that this could be a good car for the money. I mean, the non-track pack car, is it about $75,000? Maybe a touch under $75,000? 60,000 euros-ish, thereabouts. 55,000 pounds, that kind of category. But it's actually a really good car for the money. Like a really good car for the money. That's the bonkers thing. Obviously, to bring it over, a few people wondered about this. When the time does come to bring this to Europe, I will of course have to export it from the US, and that will mean paying the taxes, plus the shipping, plus the things you need to change to homologate it. So potentially some new lights, perhaps a few other things that need to be changed to conform it to European or UK standards. So unfortunately, that does mean VAT, duties, a whole load of other costs, and that is part of it. Unfortunately, that's life, but at the end of the day, it's the only way to get one of these to Europe, so I'm okay with that. It will be worth it. It will be very, very exciting and very fun to have one of the few. Although you might have seen that Ford UK have as a press car a Grabber Lime one of these, but non-carbon fiber track pack. So I've seen that a couple of times actually. It's just green with white stripes with no track pack option. So it will be fun to have this, I guess, as the potentially only one, unless somebody else imports one between now and then. Anyway, I'm waffling on. Let's go tell you a little bit more about this upcoming trip. This is quite familiar. I've stopped by a place where I regularly visited the last time I was out here, shot many videos in fact, right where I am at the moment with the palm trees all around, sunny isles just up that way, where you have all of the skyscrapers that look over the ocean, including the Porsche Design Tower, where I'm going to be heading shortly. But it is now 32 degrees Celsius. It was 33 a moment ago, and I know that's not the hottest in the world, but when you've just flown in from the UK, it is pretty toasty. Now I'm going to turn this off and go and brave the humidity for a moment. It hits you like a wall as you step out. It is not something I am used to at the moment, but this car in its Grabber Lime is looking awesome, and I have genuinely missed driving it. It feels so good to get back behind the wheel, especially with all of the memories that it brought about already. I'm not entirely sure when I will send it over to the UK, whether it's going to be this year or early next year, or whether maybe one of my other cars will come out here as well and we'll have two out here at the same time before that eventually gets imported, whether it goes direct or via somewhere else along the way. But at some point in the future, the GT500 will join the GT and the Heritage RS at the Shmeemuseum over in the UK, wearing the UK number plate or license plate, the SH67 MEE. 66 is on the GT, 68 is on Heritage RS, and guess what? The first ever GT500 was in 1967, a perfect fit. So that's going to be the plate that goes on it when I do eventually get it back over. That used to be on my first AMG GTR, but the 66, 67 and 68 will look pretty cool. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit more about the plans. You might already know this week is the famous Monterey Car Week. The likes of Quail and Pebble Beach and plenty more activities up in Monterey, Carmel, California, the other side of the country, which is of course only in a couple of days. Now, I'd have loved to have taken the GT500 over there, but without enough forward planning, considering everything going on, unfortunately, it is not possible to get this car there. It would either be a 2-day drive flat out, or a 3-day drive realistically to do so, or to transport it maybe 4, 5, potentially even 6 days. So I don't have enough time this time around. However, there are a lot of very exciting things in the plans, including, for example, some first looks at brand new cars that are going to be launched at some of the events over on that side of the country. Also some test drives and some pretty cool stuff I've never experienced before, and plenty of epic private things lined up to share some incredible videos with you guys, which of course I'm very, very excited about. So that is the main purpose for the visit, to head over to Pebble Beach, to all of the fun and activities over on that side. And I would imagine, having not had those events last year, that it's probably going to come back with a bang and do things in style. If the Goodwood Festival of Speed was anything to go by, Pebble Beach Week should be pretty epic indeed. The last time was 2 years ago when I had my Ford GT over there and I joined Fuel Run to drive up from Los Angeles. So this time around I'm going to be flying, I think probably direct to Monterey via San Francisco, the nearest major city, into Monterey, do everything that's happening around there. Hopefully afterwards head down towards Los Angeles. Hopefully a lot of cool things to do down in LA, to meet up with lots of people as well, but we'll have to see, because at this moment in time it's not really very well planned. And then back over to Miami to rejoin the GT500 for the last parts before getting back home. It's not going to be a particularly long trip, not 3 months like last time, because there are lots of things back home to get cracking on with as well, the Shmeemuseum and seeing how the guys get along there. And hopefully we'll still have some content over on the Shmeemuseum channel from Tom, Brad and Puppy to see what's going on with all of that as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they do. So make sure you are subscribed to the Shmeemuseum channel if you aren't already. A big thanks to the nearly 100,000 of you guys who have already done so. I hugely appreciate that support. But today has been a reuniting with the Shelby GT500 out here in Miami. We're just a few minutes since I got out of the air conditioning and I'm already absolutely boiling. Don't forget also that we've re-added the GT500 design to the Cheers by Shmee on 50 shop, so you can check those out as well. I've actually been wearing that one of my favorites of the designs we've had that links to this very car, and there are plenty more shirts and different designs and items available in the Cheers shop as well. But how cool to be back with the Shelby GT500, to be back out here in the USA with some big things ahead. Believe me, some very, very exciting stuff is on the horizon. That's it for now though. Make sure to stay tuned, guys. I've got a lot of cool things coming for you, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.